Hello.
Joining us. Hello,
Yes.
ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Uh, I would like to give a brief introduction about ma'am. She is the founder of Devrai Art Village situated in Panchgini. She did her MPhil in cinema studies from Sorbonne, Paris in 1989. She is also a poet and a filmmaker. Passionate about nature, she has been also involved in a lot of issues concerning environment and eco-education. She writes film script stories and poetry. Appa Aka 2010 was the first feature film as a director. She's written many stories and plays for children as well. Her She's written scripts for two feature films. A Tiger's Cry was a story based on true events that tracks the struggle of a lone woman to save the tiger in the wild. In 2009, she founded the Devrai Art Village, an NGO that strives to empower tribal citizens through their art, blending indigenous art with modern design and experimenting with different mediums as varied as metal, stone, wood, pottery, and bamboo has been their hallmark. We welcome you, ma'am, and in conversation with Mandakini ma'am, we have Mrs. Devyani Mungli, the founder of Sanskriti Group of Schools. Mrs. Devyani Mungli has been a teacher and an educator for more than 30 years and founded the Sanskriti Group of Schools, Pune, Pune's leading CBSE chain of schools, with the mission of providing children a personalized education model which would look at their holistic growth. She is passionate about fostering creativity in students and has been writing stories and poems for children for several years in both Hindi and English. She's a published author and a strong proponent of the use of poetry as a means to fire creativity and imagination in young children. She has learned the Tanjore and the Varli styles of painting and is passionate about Indian musical traditions. The fulcrum of her vision for education centers around compassion, empathy, and love. This has received support from some of the most respected people in the country, like our former president, late APJ Abdul Kalam, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, among others. It is such a privilege to host you, ma'am, here today. Thank you, both of you. I'm looking forward to the session with both these distinguished personalities. So without further ado, I would request Devyani ma'am to kindly open the conversation.
So good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to be in conversation with Ms. Mathur. So you've had a very interesting journey from Paris to Panchgani. So I would like to know who have been some role models or influences that have shaped your creative works over the years.
Well, first of all, it's equally, the same feeling to be chatting with you, Devyani ma'am. And talking about role models, I do know, I would like to think of role models, not just human beings, of course there have been, but more, it's nature, it could be tree, a river. Like I realized that the river Krishna, I made a documentary on River Krishna for the films division, and how much the river taught me, going across the boulders, not being stopped and hampered, and yet flowing, constantly flowing till she reaches, and flowing along her deepest inclination. So, that's the slope she finds. So that is what I think I've tried doing, to find my calling and follow it with sincerity. And also I feel that I've been inspired by Indian culture, the values ingrained, and that has been the raw material for my imagination. And the people who have given a glimpse of created peepholes into this vast canvas are who I hold as my role models. So my aunt Vanamala, who was a very famous film star of the Hindi and Marathi cinema, she had just quit films, and so I grew up with her. My own mother, who was from Nepal, so her devotion for Shiva, amongst other things, her dignity and her the way she took on the challenges of everyday life, not the big challenges, because for her it was such a a transplantation onto a totally new culture. So how she coped with it, with all her. And then I would also like to say, not a role model, but my husband, who is there with me and, been with me through all the major decisions. And without, he's like the second wheel of our little cart of life. So, so like I said, it's sometimes it's nature that inspires me in many ways. It's our Indian culture.
And somewhere I think you talk about all of us suffering from nature deficit. So all of us need to go back to our roots. I would also like to ask you, what was the idea of starting the Devrai Art Village and how did this idea take birth?
So Devrai Art Village, actually, the NGO was started in 2008, but we had shifted to Panchgani. It's been almost 23 years now. So earlier we were living in a rented place. Then we bought a piece of land, and which was pretty much barren. And when we called it Devrai, it was more aspirational and my husband is very fond of trees. That was one of the reasons why we decided to quit Mumbai, because we wanted to try out a way of living close to nature and a different way of being. And I think we were very lucky to be able to do it because we had come prepared with the thought that if it wouldn't work out here, we would go back. Okay, coming back to Devrai. So we called our land and our house Devrai. And then, and I was going to Sanjeevan Vidyalaya, which is one of the prominent boarding schools here, and interacting with school children, doing, as a resource person, doing a bit of filmmaking and theater as a medium for exploration and creative expression and all that. And that's where I met Suresh Pungati, who was a teacher, art teacher there, Adivasi art teacher. So when he told me all about the plight of his people back home in Gadchiroli, and if we could create a safe space for them where they could explore and they could, and we could sustain this dying heritage of metal craft, especially. And on our land was a lone umbar tree, a ficus tree. And I'd always thought that I want to do something under it because with its canopy, it had formed like a cave. So that's where it started, with 3 people from his native place. And everything was, some of them hadn't done metal craft. They were bamboo craftsmen. And a lot of, right from the beginning, we tried to see with this soil and all kinds of methodology of casting, which they had even forgotten. So that's how it began. And now actually we are a community of 50, almost 50 men and women, people from across the border, from Chhattisgarh, from Bastar, have also joined us. And yeah, we are growing like a large community.
It almost seems as if you were destined to be there at Devrai and to create.
I feel that way, that it is not just, I was called to this place, and yes.
So since you talk about art always evolving, what is the future vision that you have for Devrai?
So Devrai, although we started with what is known as Dhokra art. So in fact, Dhokra art is a very ancient form of our art form, which exists in many parts of our country. In fact, they say that everybody, all kids, we are familiar with the Mohenjo-daro dancing girl, the statuette, and that they say is the first sample which was made using the lost wax technique. So first you make in wax and then, so that is the genesis of Dhokra art. So say 5,000 years ago, and it still continues, and it is there in many parts of our country, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, even Andhra. So we first tried to do this, and then we realized that if we want to, like, because our, I feel Indian culture it's a living tradition. It's not something which is to be preserved like a museum piece. And if it is living, it has to respond to modern challenges. It has to appeal to modern taste as well. And so retaining all that was the essence, yet making it appealing to, universal in appeal is what we tried to. And we started experimenting both with the medium and the design. So the first thing was when we became successful with what is now we have branded as Rock Dhokra. That was our first giant leap into recognition, and it's under patent process. So I'll just show you, like for instance, if you see this little pebble which has been turned into an elephant. So, or even this this head, which is made is a fusion of stone and brass. So this had never been tried before. And so for this process, we've got patent. Once this was a success, then of course we had as if found our wings. And then we started doing, now we even carve stone, not just river pebbles, but with carved stones we do it. And more experimentation. I'm just showing you examples of how we evolved, like your question was, and with it is linked the future vision as well. So now let me show you something interesting, and especially if there are kids watching, they may find this of interest. So this was actually a real, I think it's a baby monkey skull, which was got by our dog from surrounding fields. So then what we did was we tried to cast it by putting clay on it, and then the original skill burnt out, and now we have in brass. So this is what we call organic casting. So now, for instance, if you see, this is a Parle-G biscuit, which is being turned into a pendant. And even here, a door handle, which is actually made from a real piece of a creeper. Like this was the real creeper. And this is now, so the texture is got. So all this kind of experimentation, and which is mirchis, even fusion with pottery. So next, if you ask me, Devyani ma'am, what I think we should get into is now into a bit of storytelling arts as well, because till now one has been exploring spatial arts, and this even these tell us stories. Like let me show you something again. So this was cow dung which I picked up from the road, and now and this little cow, and we call this Devrai bullshit. So so little stories get woven into all our artifacts. That is for certain. So then I thought that our storytelling arts are also vanishing for want of lack of audience. So like puppetry or Pattachitra, Kavar, Fard from Rajasthan. Fard is such a beautiful, many of us don't know. So it would be scroll painting, which would be opened at night, and typically the artist would be singing out the story, and the wife would be holding candle to all these screen which would roll out. So look at the hypnotic spell it would cast. And all this now in a theater with a movie making is also the biggest art of storytelling, but it should not be at the cost of forgetting all this. So I want to document all these storytelling arts, and tell our stories, which are also dying out. Because, you know, when I ask my tribal kids who come, they know Bollywood songs, but they've forgotten their local songs. So it's the Bollywoodization of culture which is happening, which is, and all of us actually, at the present generation is a deracinated lot. With so there is a need to go back to our roots. So when I was teaching, in fact, English to a group of Adivasi kids, I was telling them their stories and through English, using English medium and with spin-off exercises. So this is the direction I thought I would like to get into, apart from more cross-pollination of ideas in metal art and bamboo craft. We've even started stone carving and wood carving at our place. Yes.
That's very interesting, and I would surely like to see the journey ahead and probably be a part of it. So is there a way that you feel that we can make our traditional Indian arts more accessible for our younger generation?
Yeah, that has been that is what one has been striving. So to kindle curiosity, and to, like when I showed you this glucose, this biscuit, you know, it or we have created like an Iron Man here with iron craft, beaten iron, even because Panchkini also, like, you know, local, many people don't know, the younger generation who are very fond of Freddie Mercury, who's the rock star, that Freddie Mercury had spent about 8 years in a Panchkini school. So we have created a whole, in fact, you know, just yesterday, that sample which I created, I reluctantly parted with it, the Freddie Mercury statue. So, so, you know, these are certain hooks which to engage our younger generation. And now Devrai is become like a bridge. So we have interns from design schools coming, we have school children with who we do workshops, and all kind of, we not only train the tribal apprentices, but we have all these mainstream schools and individuals, artists and all coming and sitting with the craftsmen, Adivasi craftsmen, and actually engaging with them and with the work and evolving their own.
So I'm sure that's a very stimulating experience for people to be there on ground and work with these artisans. Do you feel that the new education policy would allow some windows of opportunity to blend art seamlessly into everyday learning at schools?
It is a very good decision, and I really am very thrilled and excited about it. But we keep keeping fingers crossed, because much depends on the implementation, and our education means it is the scale. Thousands of schools in villages here, there. It's the scale in India which is mind-boggling. It's very easy to talk about fancy this thing in a small country like Finland or you know, all these, but the sheer scale is, and I feel art actually will be a great help, art integrated learning, because art is also something that transcends language. So when you talk of using art as a methodology of teaching, till now we have been just teaching art as being one little subject, art, which co-curricular almost, you know, which doesn't count in the main learning process. But to make it as a vehicle for learning all other subjects is actually giving it the right place. And what does that mean? I think if I were to tell simply as I understand, it's creative thinking, it's experiential way of understanding, and not just understanding, but also when a child shows his work in an art form, there is no right and wrong answer. It's his own interpretation of what he's understood. So that kind of assessment also we'll have to have so it is an overhauling of the whole education system, and hope we have just taken the first few steps. Hope it rolls out smoothly without hurdles.
Yes, CBSE has already started the art integrated projects, which the teachers have initiated this from this academic year, and I think children are really enjoying it. And like you said, it needs to be seen how it will pan out in the future and what are the challenges faced by the teachers, whether the teachers who studied traditional schools will be open-minded to absorb this new process that has been kickstarted. I know you're an accomplished author and you have already published some books. Could you please tell us a little more about the new book that you are working on?
So the new book, I have titled it Imaging the Unimaginable. And it's understanding the concept of divinity in India. It's my exploration of this subject. And I thought, because we have imagined divinity right from Nirgun, that is the formless, to the most, the variety of gods and goddesses. It's mind-boggling. And we also, we have, if we talk of our culture, the Sanatan Dharma, there's also atheism as certain this thing. So that is another backdrop, and it's the seeker who wants to create his own God. We are not learning what from a book or this thing, but we are evolving our own. So that is what I'm trying to explore, and focusing on Shiva and Buddha. Buddha is, I think, a human being, a historical figure who later in Mahayana and all becomes divine. And Shiva, who's actually I don't know, a concept of a god, but has been given human form. So right from Shivaling to a god with family, with wife, Parvati and Ganesh, and the whole, and each one creating a cult. So this has given me something to explore this vast canvas. Otherwise, I was floundering. I didn't know, though I knew I wanted to talk about it. It was like something which was pulling me, but and as it is, I feel my thinking is never linear. It's always a kind of a panoramic kind of revelation. It has always been like that. And often Atul, my husband, tells me you are scattered all over. But I said, no, all these things kind of, help me somewhere to, but that's the way I've been. So I'm still floundering, but continuing, and to continue with the story of Shiva is not easy. So, and my personal experience of Shiva, so my journey to Kailash Mansarovar, which I had been, and back to Banaras, and that is, yeah.
So I think you're being very humble, but we will surely look forward to this book being published. And by when do we expect to see it in the book?
At least a year, yes.
Okay. So whatever I have read about you and gleaned from our conversation, nature and spirituality both play a very significant role in all your works. Can you please share some more insights about this?
Like when I was talking about my role model, I said river. Yes, I feel nature, especially for Devrai art, there's no end. Like for instance, right now, let me show you this bangle which I'm wearing. So this was actually, these are Karvi buds, and Karvi is a flower which blooms once in 7 years. and it purples the whole Mahabaleshwar hillsides, paints it purple. And so we celebrated it as a festival. And can you see there's a little honey bee? So when Karvi blooms, there's a lot of honey bees. And all my rings, there's a deer, there's a little tortoise. So nature not only forms raw material, like this, gives us ideas, leaves, which we cast. So these are original leaves, which is turned into a earring. So right from small items of utility, I will show you, this was a peanut shell, which is turned into a earring. So I think without showing this thing, because I think we have time. I also want to show you at the end the process video, a 1-minute process video, which I think is Priyanka has it ready, which will show you how a piece of stone finally turns into an artifact. So it will give you an idea about the process.
I'm sure
yeah,
there is a technique to it, but it seems like a magical process where you've transformed so many things from nature into such beautiful artifacts. And at least I, for one, am looking for some synergy with Devrai and you, Ms. Mathur. So I'm sorry I interrupted. Would you like to continue with what you were saying?
No, just like, yeah, I have things here, so I might as well. So this is like, apart from this dhokra thing, we also do beaten iron and a fusion of the two. So now this is a tumba, dried gourd. We create lamps out of it. So it gives magical patterns of this thing. But tumba, it was usually used to store mahua wine and water. So we have turned it into flowers. Now here there's a whole horse cart with the flowers I've kept. And this golden bird, actually, it is a fridge magnet. So this is made of iron. So I've just put this thing. So things of utility. Earlier you were asking me, how do we bring in the younger generation? So art which doesn't remain hanging on your walls, but becomes a part of your daily life experience, is also what can create curiosity and kindle interest. This is another flower vase. So this is beaten iron craft and flower vase. And yeah, let me show you something else. This, give me that. Now, see, this is Chhattisgarh balancing toy, but we have created a story out of it. This bird balances on it. And we have created huge installations with balancing this technique. So this perfectly balances on it. So, what was your question, ma'am?
I was just, I had spoken in between, so I asked you whether you'd like to continue.
Yeah, okay. So I think there would be no end to what
One thing I think I'm very curious about, and I'm sure all the listeners and the participants who are here, how can people learn more about your work? Of course, one is visiting Devrai and watching the YouTube videos and whatever is available on the internet. For example, the movies that you have made, are they accessible somewhere online?
Yes, most of those short films, and they are accessible. And now I'm more into script writing rather than making. My younger son, he's a filmmaker. He's more technically, because for me, filmmaking, I learned it on the job. I was teaching, I did my post-graduation in French cinema as a subject. And talking about films are of course available, but Devrai, we have workshops. So people can connect with us and take workshops. And this year, in fact, we have got 2 girls to master MAs from JJ. One is Vaishnavi. She's right next to me. Vaishnavi, you can say hello. She's done her master's in painting. And Durga, who is not here just now, she is in metal arts. She specializes in metal arts. So she is going to be doing all kinds of finishes and different things. So what I'm trying to say is that this is how the younger new ideas and all get infused into traditional work. And that's how it's our way forward.
So it's been lovely conversing with you, and I'm really looking forward to visit Devrai. And for the other people also present here, so you are open even during this lockdown and work is going on as usual?
Yes, on a small, yes, it is going on, yes.
Here we share a video of the art, of the craft at Devrai. Now. That was beautiful, and I think all the audience would be now really excited to visit Devrai. It is beautiful, really. I think we can experience it when we come there. Thank you so much for sharing that, ma'am. We have a quick question from Lata Anand. She's asking if chemicals are chemicals used to make these items into artifacts. And how long are these workshops which you mentioned? Is there any specific qualifications required for doing these workshops?
Okay, let me start answering backwards. No qualifications, but deep interest. And no chemicals are used. These are all made with wax first, and then metal and 2 layers of clay. So there's no chemical used. And typically for a rock dokra workshop, we ask for 3 days, and we customize it. Actually, if you have more time, like there have been artists who have come and stayed for a month long and created their own artifacts, because we have a whole facility with the kiln and the craftsmen who can execute your ideas. So even when we teach, it's not just the skill we are talking about. It's more making you create what you desire, what you have in mind. So the aesthetics, how do you look? So it's the training of the eye as well as the hands to look at nature, to observe, to see what you can make, and then come up with your own idea, which we will only help you to execute. And that is the formula. So it depends, and some people have just 1 day's time, so then we just give just a glimpse in the hope that future, if they feel interested, they'll come and do more. So that is the thing, yes.
I think Lata Anand is thanking you for the wonderful work that you are doing. And someone is asking that it is a beautiful place and they will be glad to visit it. And someone else asked a question again that would he need something? And someone in Shivani Singhal is asking if there is an outlet in Pune to buy these things.
As of now, we don't have any outlet. We participate in exhibitions and all, like Bhimtadi, and we had at Mona Lisa Kalagram. And so we don't have an outlet. But come here, you're not very far from Pune. We are not very far from Pune.
I'm sure that would be an experience everyone will
And we
look
can
forward
courier. Actually, if you tell us something specific you want, we courier that thing to you. Yeah.
Okay, so Shivani Singhal is thanking you for this. I'm sure, Ms. Mathur, you'll have the entire Sanskriti team landing there. And
Oh, that's such
So
a
I-
lovely piece of
someone is
news.
asking you to type the website for them, and they're asking if there are any special programs for introducing the art to the younger generation. I think that has already been answered, but maybe Mrs. Mathur would like to repeat it.
Yeah, so younger we have, because, you know, we make things with wax. It's like playing with Play-Doh. So, in fact, all ages have come here and created their shaders, because they create their own little frog or a little elephant and whatever. In fact, some kids come up with unusual ideas. So it is nothing. And the casting, of course, they can only see, and it's hypnotic to see the casting and all. But you can, even a child can create these crafts. It doesn't require very fine skill for creating a rock dhokra, this thing. And yeah.
I think you're basically close to nature, exploring your own creativity and seeing how you get that element of nature back into your homes.
Yes, that's what one is trying, yes.
Yes.
I would, before moving on, but I would like to thank both of you, Mandakini ma'am and Devyani ma'am, for being so kind enough to contribute your valuable time to the session, being a part of our first venture at AOTL. And indeed, it was very insightful. It was wonderful having both of you here. And we look forward to more such sessions. And I'm sure this has kind of kindled interest in the younger generation, in the youth, we would say, towards indigenous art forms. And we look forward to having, at least having this interest generated. And we look forward to more aspirants taking up indigenous arts as a mainstream, even mainstream, and otherwise as a hobby. Thank you so much for the enlightening session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka, and thank you, Mrs. Mathur.